This episode is made possible by New Masters Academy, the world's absolute #1 online art school in the entire internet. Click the link down below for a free 7-day trial. Thank you, New Masters Academy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Apps with After Hours podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Vincent, a background designer for the Hollywood animation industry.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like.
Today we're going to talk about the fall of the Hollywood blockbuster and the rise of DIY entertainment.
We are about to talk about some spicy news with Disney and ScarJo, but before we get into it, make sure to smash the like button, jingle all our bells and buttons because it really helps us out, please, and thank you.
You also look really, really good. I love the way you look. I like what you did to your hair, and I think the colors you chose, pretty good.
Very good colors. I just choose black all the time.
As out of laziness,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah. So, Scarlett...
I wanted to open this podcast with one of my jokes.
Okay.
You ready for one of my jokes?
I'm ready.
What do you call a spider with no legs?
What?
Black Widow. Because it has no legs in the box office. And it's a spider. So it doesn't have legs. So it's just like this bulbous thing going...
Really bad dad joke.
Hey.
Really bad. Really, I didn't even laugh.
I was thinking about that while I was going #1. I was like, I felt like a genius. As many dad jokes come to many dads, I'm sure you can relate. As
you get older, you just slowly start transforming into, like...
I don't even have kids, and it's just happening.
Yeah, it just happens. So, ScarJo made some news lately. If you haven't heard already, Scarlett Johansson is currently suing Disney because of her contract and how... Basically, what's reported is that she didn't get paid as much as she was supposed to get paid because of how much it failed in the box office, and a lot of people.
So back up. So in these contracts, they're not even. There's like money on the table that comes out after the movie is released. Is that?
Yes. Sometimes, depending on how well a movie does, like how many people end up going to see it, the actor or sometimes the executives, like everyone's contract is different, but we're talking about like the actress's contract here. The actress's contract could say like, oh, you're gonna pay me like $1 million to do this movie, but if it ends up making like $100 million in the box office, then I deserve a cut of that, a certain amount of how well it does.
Pretty nice deal, especially if it's something like a Endgame.
Yeah.
Something big like that. Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Because this movie was planned pre-Corona time, she was expecting it to make pre-Corona time numbers. Like, everyone knew that back in the day, Marvel movies just came with a $1 billion profit or something like that.
And we were in Dallas when Black Widow came out, and what did you think about it? Because we had a small conversation about it. I remember telling you I think it'll be fine. I think people will watch it.
I remember thinking no one will watch it because I am not a Marvel fan, actually. I think I fall into the category of I didn't really know Iron Man. I barely knew anything about the Hulk. I barely knew anything even about X-Men, and in my opinion that's a more popular Marvel franchise. So I am what you would call a plebe, what the comic book nerds would call a plebe. So,
but majority of the population
are like that. And the reason why I go to see Marvel movies is because I think I should. It's because of FOMO and just the spectacle of it. Not because I'm a huge fan of Captain America and all these things.
You had this interesting point where you told me that one of your friends, you're close, you are thinking of this person as a sample.
Yeah.
This person doesn't watch Marvel movies because they're in love with any of the characters or the lore or whatever. It's literally because all of their friends around them are pressuring them to be like, oh, have you seen it?
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it? And then obviously you're going to be like, oh, well, if my friends are watching it, I guess I'll watch it.
Yeah, it's like a conversation starter for one, because you want to be in the net. Like, you're in the office water cooler. Oh, what did you watch last weekend? Oh, did you see the latest, greatest, whatever, like that kind of thing. It's not because people are actually like huge fans. I think maybe you become one after the fact, like you fall in love with the movies or something. But at least for me and the majority of my friends who are not super into Hollywood, entertainment, the business, whatever, like basically none of our art school friends, all my normal friends from high school and like family members, they are like plebes. And they are not going to watch this movie if there isn't enough FOMO around it. Because they're not fans of Black Widow. They're not fans of Captain America the way you think it is. Which is why way back when I made this prediction about Marvel that it's about to fall, that it's getting way too big.
Last year.
Yeah, like 2 years ago.
Oh.
Like in private.
Oh, in private.
And I told it to a bunch of people I worked with at Disney. And they're like, oh, you're crazy. They're too big to fall. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't think you understand how not strong that franchise actually is. Because people are fooled by the strength of the Marvel property because they think it's made so much money that people really love Marvel. They love these characters.
And how much it's being talked about and how much oxygen it's being sucked up, from friends and family.
Yeah. When in actuality, there is no strength in this property. It's FOMO. It's a property that's run by FOMO. And if there is no FOMO, then are people actually going to go and watch it?
So interesting point. I remember we were about to drive to get ribs, and then the articles for Black Widow started coming out after its release. I think it's first week. Mm-hmm. And then there were tons of puff pieces, articles about Black Widow makes
so well,
60 million in the box office. Oh my god, this is amazing. This is crazy.
Which honestly isn't that good.
It's nothing. but like they kept going, for numbers.
Yeah,
for coof numbers, not so bad.
I'm like, okay, but like Demon Slayer did fine.
Yeah. And that's when I started to think, like, wait a second, why are they puffing this right now?
Yeah.
Because if this movie, it might be great for the first week, but anybody who pays attention to the box office knows that, like, does it continue to do good throughout the following weeks? Does it continue to be number one?
Yeah.
It didn't
have legs.
It didn't. And I thought it was super foolish of them to boast about their numbers, their opening box office numbers, when, like, everybody's going to be hyper conscious about it now. Yeah. And then everybody realizes, like, oh, this movie's not doing so good anymore. In fact, people watch Space Jam.
Yeah, because it's dumb fun.
The following,
or whatever.
It was just the next offering.
Yeah,
it was just the next offering.
The next thing, and yeah, so I was pretty right. I mean, I didn't know if it was. I kind of hoped that it would bomb, because I kind of believed in my soul that, like, the marketing is whatever, everything is whatever. They're putting it on streaming. Like, it's just. It just, everything's telegraphing to me that it's a very mediocre, okay, fine movie. Not really worth the $30 price tag or however much it's going to cost if we actually go into the theater to watch it. So I was like, I'm probably not, I don't care. And knowing that I don't care, I'm pretty sure my friends who really don't care would
rather not.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure it's going to flop. Honestly, it did better than I thought. So it was between you and me's expectations. You thought it was going to do well. I thought it was going to flop. It's just was fine.
It was fine.
But
very unusual for a Marvel movie. In fact, I think it's the lowest performing Marvel movie of all time, officially. Of all time.
I also think it's very unfair to say, like, oh, it's because of the pandemic that it's like this. I don't think that is an excuse anymore.
Why?
Because of Demon Slayer. If Demon Slayer can outperform even during a pandemic,
you have no excuse.
Marvel and Disney should have no excuse.
Yeah, no excuse.
It should, like, especially as, like, most places you can watch this movie in theaters. with at limited like numbers and showings and what, but it's still like the marketing behind it, the budget behind it, like it was their first like hope at potentially being a success. A lot of movies prior to this have already started to see a lot more success. So you would think that a big blockbuster Marvel movie should perform more than it did. So all the like, it's a great movie. It's doing well. It's doing amazing. It's doing so amazing. First of all, like, puff pieces really aggravate me. As someone who is not susceptible to FOMO, all that
She really
much.
isn't.
Yeah.
I am, but she is not.
You are. Every time you see something trending or whatever, you always go, I want
You want a Popeye's chicken sandwich? You want Popeye's?
I'm like, no.
Do you want Popeye's
And
right
then you're
now?
like, but
I'm so
everyone's
excited.
talking about it. I'm like,
there's a war. Don't you understand?
it probably just tastes like every other fast food chicken sandwich. Like,
Honestly, what do you
it's
think
fine.
about the sandwich, though?
It's fine. I like all chicken sandwiches.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go wrong. They're all fine. I don't need to taste another one.
Chick-fil-A or Popeyes?
Popeyes. Okay. What do you think?
Chick-fil-A!
No, I think Popeyes. Anyways, so Scarlett Johansson, the more details of the lawsuit came out, which makes it even more damning for Disney. So she, even pre-pandemic, she knew that like where everyone's moving over to streaming, she really didn't want this movie to go on a streaming service. So she already had worries about it, to the point where I think they said the Marvel CEO literally in an email was reassuring her that this is not going to streaming.
Really?
Yeah. And
oh, damn, dude.
And so like she has proof that they lied to her, to like basically to her face in an email. And then once, like after the pandemic, she was like, okay, there's all these announcements that like, oh, everything's going to streaming. So she knew that it was going to streaming at that point. So she tried to reach out to Disney and Marvel to renegotiate. And then they basically ghosted her like several times, apparently. They were like, you're just gonna sit there and you're gonna take it, because who are you? You work for us. And then so Disney and Marvel basically come out with a response to the lawsuit news coming out. And I need to read to you word for word what their response was, because I was kind of like, they think we're dumb.
It's pretty unbelievable.
They think we're all dumb. Here it is. They declared, there is no merit whatsoever to this filing. The lawsuit is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID pandemic, the company concluded. And they're basically just like being like, but what about the people that died?
How dare you
sue us about this movie? Because what about the people who died? And I'm like, what does that have to do with this at all?
You're using those people like a shield, like cover. It's despicable. But it's like, oh, of course, expect nothing worse. It's basically like a really Obi-Wan mind trick. Oh yeah, no, f*** you, ScarJo. You're so ungrateful because there's so many bad things that have happened. Like, what does it have to do with anything?
This looks really bad for us, but look over there.
Over there.
Distraction over there.
It's like the Kevin Spacey thing.
Yeah.
Remember? It's like these awful things that are so regrettable, but I'm of a sexual orientation. See, I'm like, that doesn't
what? That has nothing to do with anything.
That doesn't have to do anything with anything.
And I was just like, I don't think this is gonna work, because this is particular. Like, we're not that dumb, or maybe I don't know.
We're pretty dumb.
Yeah,
but we're not. I don't think we're that dumb.
Prove me wrong, Zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong.
Are you in the side of Disney? Is Scarlett? Let us know in the comments. Is Scarlett Johansson being an ungrateful human being, because of all the horrific things that have happened, to just, I don't know, ask for what she's owed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or is Scarlett Johansson right? That like maybe if you promised me something, I should get it. Maybe.
And she even tried to like fix it.
Yeah.
Multiple times. Like, hey, this thing, shouldn't we like, you told me we'll renegotiate if this ends up happening. Hello, talk to me here.
And what do you think? What do you think? Like, what do you think about Scarlett Johansson?
So when this news came out, I had a few thoughts as someone who understands how Hollywood works, and it is not what everyone who thinks it is. Everyone thinks this is about money.
Isn't it?
No, I don't think it's about money at all. Partly because it's ScarJo who is suing. Because if you think about it, what does she care? She is richer than most of us could ever hope to become.
Yeah.
I've said before in like a lot of my talking head videos and probably on this podcast, that you reach a certain amount of wealth that more money doesn't mean anything anymore. When you reach a certain like threshold of like all your basic needs are met, and you can literally at a drop of a hat buy whatever you want, and you don't want for much. So your goals in life are no longer like, I want money. It's more existential than that. And so for her, it's a brand issue. I immediately understood this as like, if it were me, if I were filthy rich and I didn't need another cent. First of all, why would you even act? Why would you even continue? Like, most people don't. Most people, once you reach like millionaire status or you're able to basically retire, a lot of people just disappear into obscurity because they're like, I can just retire. Like, I'm rich.
So how is this a brand issue?
So the only reason why ScarJo would continue to act and have a career is because it has nothing to do with the money. It has everything to do with wanting to have either like notoriety, like fame, and being perceived as like...
Oh, so you mean like contracts? Like, for example, if ScarJo wants to move into a new movie franchise series, it's like how the people hiring value her.
Yeah.
And if Disney fucks her like that, everybody in Hollywood will be like, oh, well, ScarJo,
you're not worth much.
Yeah.
You're so if, let's say,
so it behooves ScarJo to fuck back in order to do what?
To be in better movies, to have more respect in Hollywood, it's to her brand of Scarlett Johansson being this A-list actress. That's important. More important than, oh, what, I made another few $1 million. Oh, great.
In a Marvel movie.
Yeah, I have millions of dollars in the bank. What does that matter to me? So for her, she, like, imagine this. She would have never done this movie for the price that was paid her. She, being an A-list actress, you need to consider like the opportunities. You only take the ones that are worth your time. So I think she was paid like $25 million or something like that. She is worth more than that. She was worth, what was it, like 50 million or whatever much she would have been paid on top of that. So now that she is not worth 50 million, she is now worth 25. That's really bad for the brand of Scarlett Johansson. It's bad for how Hollywood perceives her. It's bad for the kind of roles that she can get now. It hurts her career, and like it hurts everything. Now it's so much easier for someone to be like, you're aging, you're not worth much, you're not an A-list actress anymore. Like that is more damaging than whatever money that she is owed. So for me, I was like, that's really interesting. And it's not like Scarlett Johansson is above doing indie movies.
Like, she does tons.
Yeah.
Under the Skin, so many.
Yeah. So again, it's not about the money. it like she is someone like that says to me she's someone that cares about the art and the artistry of it and being an actress and making good stuff that people should pay good money for, and she should be valued for her work. She has pride in her work. And on top of that, like now that blemish in a way of Black Widow being like a dud on her resume, that which really shouldn't have been in a parallel universe, is not good for her. So I was kind of like, man, I would have probably done the same thing in her shoes. In particular because it's a very risky move to sue your employer. And guess who didn't do this? All the directors who got screwed with their movies being released on streaming when it was never agreed upon. In their contracts, did they get to read? No, they just sat there and took it. So I bet Disney and Marvel were like, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna take it. And because everyone else did. And ScarJo's putting her name on the line, money on the line, and her potential employment with these studios, and like messing with Disney, especially in this way, is really not okay. Like she is actually putting her money where her mouth is, and like actually standing up to and demanding what she is owed, which I wish more artists would actually do. And I was kind of like, yeah, good for you. It's one of those moves I'm like, I don't know if you're a good person, but I kind of would love to work with you one day, because like that just says to me, you know what you're worth.
That's an admirable move in Janet's book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because especially when like she tried to reach out. Come on, like Disney had every opportunity. And you're Disney. They had every opportunity to not let this happen, to just do the right thing. Like you think, again, if you think you have any power at all, they did this to ScarJo. Okay?
They do this to ScarJo so blatantly, what do you think they're gonna do to you?
Exactly. That's how much
they don't give a shit about their artists.
Yeah. Period. Is it not more obvious? And currently Disney stocks are falling because of all of this news, I would assume. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I think both Netflix and Disney's numbers aren't doing so well right now. Everything's just not looking so good for them right now. Which kind of brings me to the topic that we were right. Allow us to gloat a little bit.
Yeah, I think in the previous few episodes we were talking about how this coup might affect the economy of movies.
Yeah, the future of movies and blockbusters from now till, whenever the next grand event happens.
And we talked about how people were so fed up with musicals that they wanted something just not so sugar pop and more real to life, especially since war was happening.
Yeah, at that time.
Yeah.
So then came like the 70s era of films, but then right after 70s came the 80s era of film, which was sugar pop again.
I mean, to explain, the 70s was like a response. It was like
to
gritty, real to life. Think Taxi Driver.
Low budget, reliant on the people like Scorsese and that whole crew vision of what movies could be. And then they became more about blockbusters all over again for a while. And then now we had a very similar big musicals, sugar pop, that kind of thing. And then we made this prediction that I think, and gone are the days of the big blockbuster movies. I think these studios are going to start hurting, and they're going to start kicking and screaming because they're like, no, we want our $1 billion again. But that's just not something that I think is possible or people even want anymore after all of this. Everything that has happened is just hard to relate to something so sugar pop. Look at Wonder Woman 1987, 84, I don't remember.
I was on the flight back from Dallas. This lady was watching it next to me. I hadn't watched the movie, and I was trying to fall asleep, but in and out of falling asleep, I was looking over the movie and thinking, what is going on?
And you asked her too.
I asked her, I think we just chatted for a bit, and I just asked her, what do you think of the movie? I like the first one. I really like the first one. I didn't see this one. What do you think? And she's like,
it's all right.
It's all right.
Yeah. I was like, damn.
I'm like, wow.
So much things have changed.
She just wanted to enjoy her flight.
Yeah. Literally, that's what this movie was kind of made, just to entertain you and help you escape for like a few hours. And she was just like, nah.
Like, we're not doing our jobs right,
as
guys.
Entertainers and art makers.
If you can't enjoy the latest, whatever, Marvel, like, not Marvel, Disney, whatever Hollywood offering in the airplane, we got problems.
Yeah. To help you just, I don't know, escape for a few hours. So we predicted that, like, gone are those days. And I think if we can look at history again, the natural thing that will happen is people can't relate to the sugar pop. They're going to relate to an individual's perspective who is just not trying to put politics or not trying to overly stimulate you with big explosions and CGI, and just tell a good personal story that isn't so crazy, something that is more relatable to you after all of this. Which means it's like indie filmmakers, smaller budget stuff is going to be successful because it's the only way you're going to be able to make a profit. Things like horror movies, comedies, cheap thrills, and honestly, that's kind of what I want right now. And we were right. We were right. Because, again, there's no reason why Black Widow should have failed.
I believed it wouldn't. I thought, like, oh, the brand is so strong. We're all like doom and gloom about Marvel, but I'm sure they'll be fine. It's kind of shocking, and it's Black Widow. She's the last of the OG people. Yeah. So I don't know. Good luck with all the new people.
Yeah. Then, like, the Eternals or whatever the heck is happening. I have no. I straight up. We made this prediction a long time ago that now that Disney bought, like, Fox, that they're gonna do something with the X-Men, and I was for sure they're gonna do it. And then they do, like, the Eternals and all this stuff, and I'm like, who are these people? I don't know who these people are. Especially, again, I'm a plebe. I don't know who these people are. Why should I watch? But if they had done X-Men, I would have definitely watched.
Tempting, yes.
Yeah.
Very, very tempting.
So I was confused, and, like, if Black Widow, someone you've been with for, like, what seems like a decade at this point, if you can't even get people to care about her and you want us to care about, like, some random people that we have never heard of, I don't know about those movies anymore. And, like, when your brand is run on FOMO and, like, it, like, you unleashed the social media, the journalists, beasts, and, like, try to manipulate people's hearts and minds into thinking it's a good movie, and then
everything's fine.
It's great. It's doing great. Go
We're
see
back,
it.
baby.
FOMO generators, and no one bought it. That says a lot to me.
So that's what ultimately those puff pieces were about. I think that had nothing to do with the numbers or whatever. It's to FOMO people into watching the movie so that they could perform better in the second, or perform a little bit in the following weekend. Didn't work.
Yeah.
People watched Space Jam.
I also think we had this thought, maybe we give too much credit to, like, the executives or the people who market these movies, but I think they know that their movies are successful based on FOMO, because, like, to be honest, when you work in Hollywood, you know a mediocre movie when you see one, and people who market it also understand that as well. And I think it's really interesting when you see puff pieces that tell you a mediocre movie isn't a mediocre movie. Because, for one, it's not a good thing. Like, I disliked it really a lot when I saw a lot of puff pieces for Run, Hide, Fight. And I dislike it when I see it in Hollywood. Because, don't lie to me.
Don't lie to me.
You think you telling me a mediocre movie is not a mediocre movie and I go see it, you think that is good? It makes me feel like you stole my money. It makes me feel like you lied to me, and why should I listen to you again next time? Like, it just doesn't work. But then I keep seeing it work because a puff piece is called a puff piece for a reason. It's a term that journalists have because it's a thing they do. It's a thing the people in the media do to puff something up to get people to go buy it, even if it sucks. So I was just kind of like, this doesn't look good when you tell me Black Widow is not a mediocre movie. Because if I actually went and saw it and I got majorly disappointed, or am I not just gonna leave a nasty review talking about, man, it was just whatever? I don't know, see it or not.
If you were an exec, let's say at Paramount or WB, and you were like, you privy to this news with ScarJo and Disney, what would you think?
If I were an exec at like a different studio?
Yeah, a different studio, basically.
I would steal her.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
That was my first thought, so I bet that's what's going to happen.
I think so.
Yeah, she's going to jump ship to a different studio who's more willing to value her, and another studio is going to be like, yes!
Score!
Score.
We have like 5 movies in the bag that are going to be badass because ScarJo's in it.
I get the feeling that ScarJo has been wanting to leave Disney anyways because of all the indie movies that she's been doing. And I'm like, yeah, when you're doing like a big blockbuster, I'm sure it's soul sucking, and all you want to do is just work with indie directors and be like, oh yes, something where I am more stimulated than just having to eat chicken and look hot. I'm currently listening to 7 Habits of Highly Successful People by Stephen Covey. If you don't already have an Audible subscription, head over to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast, where you'll get 2 free audiobooks. That's audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast. So, we were right about Marvel movies, and we are still right about the direction of where Hollywood and entertainment is going, so much so that I really believe that DIY entertainment is going to be very, very, very popular very, very, very soon. We have been talking about this, like the rise of the independent artists, but I'm specifically talking about like DIY entertainment that like is made on a shoestring budget, made at home, made in your bedrooms, made by normal, average, everyday people currently right now.
Using everything at their disposal.
Yeah.
Like, let's say if they're like a musician, they have Logic and they have like a audio interface and a few instruments and a mic. There you go. You can make an album and put it on Spotify just like that.
Yeah.
And the same thing for YouTube people. People, I don't know, I'm spending a lot more time on YouTube these days. I'm not sure if I'm just more biased like that, but I don't know, there's just an infinite amount of things.
Honestly, I would rather watch YouTube than scroll on Netflix and HBO, all these other streaming apps, because it's so hard to find something worthwhile on those apps that I end up wasting a lot of time. And I don't think we're biased. Because we are people who go to good, like when Netflix was good, when like there was a lot of we would use those things probably more than YouTube. It's like I don't hate these studios so much to not acknowledge that. Like when content is good, I'm gonna go and watch it.
Like, let's say House of Cards for season, Orange is the New Black for season, Stranger Things for season.
Yeah, Black
that was
Mirror,
cool.
that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm so down to watch something that's good, but it's just not right now. And oddly enough, the good stuff is on YouTube. Like I want to see what the independent person, that just one person or a few people working together can do online, and it's so inspiring and it's infinite. I can go on YouTube for hours and just find like I've somehow discovered Japanese illustrators. I don't even know what they're saying.
But you love watching them work.
But yeah, so I genuinely think like there's a reason why I think YouTube numbers are going up and Netflix and Disney Plus numbers are going down. Like I think there's a trend here where like people have kind of exhausted their attention for these streaming apps. Whereas like social media is kind of infinite, whether it's like TikTok or YouTube or whatever social media platform that you like. It's just like you can, I will magically just find something that will distract me for hours. I can literally like sometimes when I need a break from work and from being productive, I just need to turn my brain off. I don't scroll Netflix. I don't scroll whatever I have.
No, I find you in the bed with the cats looking at your phone.
Scrolling YouTube, for hours. You leave, you come back, it's nighttime.
It's the same.
And I'm still there scrolling YouTube because it's fun and it doesn't end. So I
and it's free for the most part, you know?
Yeah.
If you're willing to sit with ads, you're just going to sit there.
Where you at this point was like, you know, we should just cancel everything we have and just get the YouTube the YouTube subscription so we don't have to have ads.
Yeah. I was thinking that. I was like, man, I barely go on these things. I would much sooner go on Prime and rent the movie.
Yeah.
Because I know it's precise. I know they have it.
Yeah.
Instead of fishing, do they have the movie I want to watch on Hulu or Disney Plus or Netflix? At least I know if I go on Prime, at least it's there.
Yeah. For the most part. So I wanted to talk about the difference between the 9-to-5 employee mindset and the independent creator mindset, because we were having this very fascinating discussion lately about our path, I guess, to discovering that I am not cut out for the 9-to-5 employee life. And we have been talking fairly recently with some of our past coworkers and people who truly, in my opinion, are for that life, and how it was very difficult for us to relate to them at this point. Like, it's like we are speaking different languages, because once you take the plunge and you leave that life, you have a whole different set of priorities that literally someone who's all about pleasing your boss, all about getting that Hollywood job, all about getting that 9-to-5, that stable income, they do not care about these things. And so I want to talk about how these qualities have always been in us from a very young age. When I was in high school, all I wanted to do was draw. Mm-hmm. All I wanted to get this high, this creative high, that I'm doing something worthwhile, and I'm like, the feeling is like a high, like I feel energized, I feel like I'm living.
And often when you're doing it, you have tunnel vision, and you are just super focused, and when it's over, you enjoy it, but that moment's so fleeting because the next day you're like, oh, I want to do it again.
Yeah. It's this lust for life, that everything is in HD and everything feels like this is how life should be, whereas most of the time when you're not doing this thing, everything is in grayscale and monotone and boring and drab and dreary, like an office building. So back then in high school, that was drawing for me. Literally, the struggle to get a good drawing was what did it for me. It would give me that feeling of I'm high off of life, and I'm so excited to try, because my success rate was very low, as most people's success rate are when you're that young and inexperienced. It's more like 1 in 100 drawings are actually good. So once you get that one drawing that's good, it's like, oh my god, I did it. So that's what it is. But then once you go to college, or you get more experience, you've been doing it for a while, you put in your what is it, 10,000 hours to become an expert or whatever, it becomes more about topping yourself. So when we were in school, I was all about making my next portfolio piece or homework assignment look the best I've ever done. Always just getting better and learning. That was what gave me the high. It wasn't necessarily the act of creating that gave me the high. It was oh, I didn't know how to do this last week, but now I do. And just constantly improving. But then once that gets old, I was like, okay, trying to find something that gave me that high again. Because eventually it subsides. That you realize I'm learning, but it's not giving me that same lust for life that it used to. So it becomes, I know my next goal is to get hired in the industry. I want to get a Hollywood job.
So you aim high.
So you aim high, and I think I've said this before, but when you do end up getting hired in Hollywood, there's like a honeymoon period. So everything I've talked about how like it sucks and like I feel drained and depressed, that doesn't happen till like about a year later. The first 6 months to a year of working in Hollywood, it's great. It's the lust for life high that you expected. The like, oh, I get to go to rap parties, I get to go to launch parties, I get free t-shirts, free
lunches, what?
Random cupcakes. Just one day a show is launching or whatever, premiering. Oh, free cupcakes with the new characters.
Margarita Thursdays.
Yeah. Margaritas
Thirsty Thursdays.
Yeah, Thirsty Thursdays, and just random all hands meetings with like nachos and what. Like, oh, it's so great. But then eventually, like you realize, as your lust, that initial lust for life, that high that you got from finally accomplishing your goal and like achieving something challenging that is no longer challenging, because like also the first year you're working, you're learning a lot. You're learning how to do the job properly, and
it's exciting because it's challenging. It legitimately is.
But after a year, it truly no longer becomes challenging because it's work. It's you go in every day and you kind of do the same exact thing. What more is there to learn in a year? You really have to push yourself to keep learning, and then a lot of other people who continue this 9-to-5 life, their lust for life goes away after that first year, and they chase after it in various different ways, either to continue to learn outside of work, to ladder climb. They think the higher they climb, the next promotion will give you that lust for life again, or power over people, whatever it is.
That high. Period.
Yeah. Or if you're not interested in those two things, it's actually travel. A lot of our coworkers and our friends have kind of like, well, life sucks. I threw away so much money just to get this. This is my career. This is my life now. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna be like crazy like Janet? No way. So they're like, well, I want to go travel. I have all this money.
These are the sane people, by the way.
Yeah, these, in my opinion, they're like the sane people who aren't like me, and they're not like the crazy ladder climbers either. They're just like, I just want to live. And they go travel because now you have all this money. What? You can buy cars, you can buy a house, and once you have those things, you're like, I guess I'm just gonna go travel. Or I'm gonna have a big fancy wedding or whatever. I don't know. So they do that. So I see, that's why, in my opinion, I see a lot of successful, quote unquote successful, fairly wealthy Hollywood artists who've made it throw away a lot of money to travel and to go to fancy restaurants and to do fancy things when they're just an artist. It's not like they're a celebrity or anything. It's not like they're getting paid the kind of money to do that. But they're like, oh, retirement, I'm always going to have this job. I'm always going to be like paid a boatload of money. So I'm going to use that to just live the high life, I guess.
Coast it.
Yeah. Live the cushy life. Whereas us, what we ended up doing is once that high faded of like, oh, I love my job, this is so cool, I'm a Hollywood artist, I've achieved my dreams, all this stuff, it wanes, and we were just kind of like waffling for a while, but like we found it again through conventioning, basically becoming little artist entrepreneurs selling our wares at trade shows and conventions in the weekend.
Meeting people face to face.
Yeah. And learning all these new skills, like talking to people, selling ourselves, what the work ethic to like drive somewhere, set up, build a trade show booth, and actually like make stuff that people would actually buy.
How to deal with customers.
So many skills, and like promotion, marketing, all these things. So that was a huge challenge for us to surmount, and it gave us life. Yeah. It exhausted us, but
we lived for that.
Yeah, when we were doing it, finally becoming successful at it, like actually turning a profit and actually like being able to take home thousands of dollars over one weekend, we would drive home like the night before we had to go to work again, being like just talking about how great the convention was and how much money we made. But it wasn't about the money, it was about like how it made us feel. And we always talked about like,
because we use the money as sort of like a barometer, because every convention that we did when we were doing it a lot just felt like it was getting up there slowly. And when we'd have like a really big good win was like, oh wow, this is successful, let's sign up for next year and let's do it again. And we try to replicate it again the following year.
And after the week after, we call it the, like, I think a lot of people call it the convention blues, where it was like the convention scene was so fun and crazy that like when you're sitting in your cubicle for like the week after, life just seems a little bit dull and gray and dreary and you feel sad. And sometimes it's coupled with getting the convention flu because you're like shaking so many hands. And it just sucks after. So we chased this high, I would say for like, what, like 3 years or so, that like literally it would not stop. Every single time we went to a convention, it gave us this feeling.
The more challenging it was, like driving to a different state and setting up and organizing where we're going to stay, like a hotel or motel or whatever it is, just made it more exciting. Just made it 10 times more exciting.
But eventually, I think by the 4th year, it started waning again. The same way that like before, when we were just like, 16, 17-year-old artists, just wanting to make a good drawing, that high didn't work anymore. And then the high in art school didn't work anymore. And then getting hired didn't work anymore. And then finally, like the conventioning thing didn't work anymore. And when I quit and I started YouTube, and it started like happening again, but in a much smaller scale. It wasn't like full on like lust for life again, but I was starting to feel a little bit more interested in what I was doing again. And I didn't truly feel this feeling again until literally we started making the music video. It was so intense, the high that we got off of this project, of not actually the release. That was part of it, but it was the act of making it that gave us the high.
Yeah, I think rolling up to the Academy place or whatever it is, like we were like so amped up on adrenaline. My arm was sore because I've been shooting for the past 2 days, but I don't care. And then we go and we shoot, go for I think an hour or an hour and a half straight, with like maybe 3 to 5 minute breaks in between like these 20-25 minute sessions of you repeating the same thing over and over again. And by the end of it, I was like drenched in sweat. You were drenched in sweat. The makeup was like falling apart. But like we were telling our helper, our assistant, like he was like looking at us and you guys are okay, and we were like, yeah, we're fine.
We're fine, yeah.
Because that gave us life. No matter what happened, if I felt like my body was going to give out or something, or if your body was going to give out from the performance, we were like, no, we're like, nothing's going to stop us from doing this.
And the last time we felt this way, where like our bodies, our physical well-being did not matter to us because we were so in it and we were so in love with, like we were finally living again, was when we were doing conventions, when we felt like we were going to die. Like you get that tired sometimes when you go and do something that challenging for an extended amount of time, like 3 or 4 days or whatever. Except even the feeling that we had doing conventions, this feeling was greater than that. It was so much more intense, and the effects of like not having that, like after it's released and then you get the high of it being released and then like finally being like, okay, it's done. Like the convention blues, it's like the same thing. It's like, oh, all we want to do at this point is like to do it again and to replicate that feeling and to chase after this thing. And it made me think, while I'm like being like, okay, I need to rest a little bit, I need to like calm down and like be patient with like my next project, all these things, because I'm tired. That was a lot to do. I was thinking about, man, we have a history of doing this from way back when in high school, just chasing after the thing that is challenging and interesting to us, and eventually that challenge is not so challenging anymore, and we chase after the next challenge. And like we were just talking about how, are we crazy? Are other people like this, or are we crazy? Because I'm worried that, I know one day that this music video that we just did will be like nothing to me. That like I would have grown and into a much more competent filmmaker or someone who knows exactly how to do that. Now I've moved on to something so much more challenging, so much more interesting to me. I know that will happen. And I know that once I master that next thing, I'm going to go to, I don't know, something even bigger and greater. It just keeps escalating. And is there a point where that stops? Where do I get to a certain level? Do I get to a certain project and go like, if I just keep doing this one project over and over and over again, like I finally found the thing that will always give me life forever? Or am I always going to be chasing the thing that is the most challenging thing to me in the moment?
I think that's a question every artist has to ask themselves. I don't know, maybe once or twice every year, like, where am I at? Like, am I at the place where I want to be, or do I need to tell the story or something? And I think I've been noticing this a lot lately about artists who make music, or indie musicians who draw on the side. I'm starting to see a lot of people who are multidisciplinary, who know how to do so many things, and like, shoot, if I'm not going to be able to hire an illustrator for my album cover, if I'm not going to be able to hire a promoter, if I'm not going to be able to do any of these things, well, I guess I'm going to do all of these things because I can, because most people have what's available to them, using the internet to be able to do these things. And I just think, I think the term of being an artist or being a creator is evolving. And I don't know, I think we all thought we were all just going to be drawers or hired wrists, but I think some of us, have more to offer. And I think it's whether or not they allow themselves to offer it or not.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I believe that I probably will never completely feel satisfied, like this is the thing that I do, that I just do on repeat and that will make me happy, that will make me satisfied. I think I will always be chasing that challenge.
How many music videos do you think it's going to take?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a number for that.
But you'll have the feeling eventually.
Yeah, that eventually, like, let's say I did like 100. You'd think someone that has made 100 music videos. I mean, you've heard it before. Like, I've heard it from music video directors and commercial directors that like it becomes kind of boring and they want to move on to the next thing eventually. They're like, no matter what job you are in, the person who is more suited to this like independent creator lifestyle is someone who's like, commercials and music videos just a job for me. I actually want to do like short films and like I've heard that so many times. And I think that's the difference between the 9-to-5 employee and the independent creator. Because the 9-to-5 employee, that's not, literally we were having this kind of conversation with someone fairly recently, and they could not understand. It was like speaking Chinese to them. It was like we were speaking two different languages. They could not relate to us, but we could kind of relate to them because we've been in that 9-to-5 employee position before.
Still am.
Yeah.
So obviously. But there was a huge part of that entire interaction where I was just like, man, I don't think we understand each other.
I specifically feel like I cannot be related to.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of people, once they leave the typical path that most people take in life, you get a job. Once you become an entrepreneur, you go into your side hustle. You become a either a celebrity, an artist, or something, you become a little bit of a black sheep and you're doing something else, you will not be able to be related to from a lot of other people. And I think a lot of people, there are certain things I don't think I can talk about, because I think most normal people cannot relate to it. It's something that only other content creators will be able to relate to. So I just choose not to talk about it.
You heard there's a community of TikTok creators who have like this small little forum or something where they like kind of talk about their woes or what's the difficulties they have.
Yeah, so like when you become a content creator of a certain size, I think it's very healthy to have a bunch of mutuals or a bunch of people who are on the same path as you, also fairly successful content creators. And we talk to each other about like our woes or the things that we struggle with and stuff like that. And when you do, you can relate to these people more than you can relate to like your own family and friends sometimes, because your family and friends, they're not living this kind of life that you are. There are some things that literally you're experiencing that no one else does unless they do the same thing as you. And so I think, that's to me is the difference between someone who is perfect for, like, if you're still wondering, like, am I cut out for this lifestyle? That is it. If you find yourself like it's never enough, then you're probably someone that wants this lifestyle even as like a side hustle. Otherwise you're gonna just hate your 9 to 5. You're gonna hate your life. And I guess the point is that it's okay. It's okay to want to chase after whatever it is that satisfies you. It's okay to become a multidisciplinary creator, because I really feel like in this day and age, in 2021, I hope that artists will stop calling themselves just drawers or painters. In fact, like, part of me just doesn't want to use the term artist anymore to describe myself, because at a certain point, like, I'm not just an artist anymore. What am I? I don't know really how to describe myself sometimes. A video content creator, is that
You're
what
Janet
I am?
the creator.
And that's okay. I think it's okay to, and I'd rather people call themselves storytellers, because that's what we are. Whatever it is, whatever art that you do. Because to call I've noticed that people are so limited in what they think that they can do. They think that, literally my only priorities in life is to get better at drawing hands.
My life will finally be worth it if I know how to draw a perfect hand.
And I go back to, like, that's me when I was 16.
Yeah, man.
I am not there anymore.
Like, is that what gives you the high?
No.
Drawing a good hand?
But the thing is, I think for a lot of people, yes. And I want to maybe challenge you that, like, maybe there is more than just that you can. It's not just this hyper-focused singular thing that you want to be good at, because one day that will get boring.
Yeah.
And maybe you'd rather be multidisciplinary. You want to be able to do so many other things.
So Janet, you're telling our audience that they are storytellers.
You're storytellers. You are good at entertaining and telling stories with your music, your art, your films, your YouTube videos, your whatever. And I think
if
that
you're doing it, you're doing it.
If you're doing
and you're
it,
probably doing a better job than the assholes in Hollywood.
Clearly.
Clearly.
So, in the theme of this whole episode, we wanted to recommend this guy that we discovered fairly recently, who is very, very inspiring to us. Who is he?
He is no Fun Haus. He is this musician who started literally a year ago, I think.
Well, not being a musician, like YouTube. Started YouTube a year ago.
Oh, yes. Sorry, excuse me. Technically, started YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes, always a musician.
Yeah.
I didn't see it with that phrasing. Phrasing. He started YouTube a year ago. He is a musician, and he's been working on it for pretty much the entirety of the COOF. And it's been amazing to watch him in the beginning of the year, like between January and February, where there's no Koof, that like, he was just trying to like, do some covers and do some like dissections on his favorite music, and then all of a sudden the Koof happens, and then he really gets to work. Really gets to work.
He's very inspiring to me because he's exactly what I'm talking about. The like DIY entertainment, and it's catering to this new thing that's happening in the zeitgeist that I am noticing of bedroom musicians are becoming very popular compared to, obviously, the mainstream rappers and artists will always be popular.
Sure, but how is it that people with a DAW and a few instruments in their bedroom, how could they like be in the same platform as Justin Bieber and all these people?
There are a lot of people currently that are exploding in popular randomly. I mean, your 15 seconds of fame comes and goes.
Yeah,
but
through
like,
TikTok or whatever.
Yeah, but still, like some people don't even get that 15 seconds sometimes, and especially it's notoriously difficult for a musician. But a lot more of that is happening than like I guess the probability of it happening is a lot higher lately for some reason. I've noticed the fact that we are discovering them is like crazy.
It's pretty crazy
because we live under a rock. I'm sure you guys, we just create in our bedrooms all day. Like, we live under a rock, and the fact that we are discovering these people says something about how it's kind of like crazy, the discoverability right now for a lot of people.
What I find most inspiring about this creator, No Fun Haus, is he just does it. And we saw his first music video that was very low budge with his buddies, like just a green screen type of thing, and, graduate to like a more, hey, you're actually, making some shot decisions and all these things. And it's really fun to see these people grow and make their art, in an uncompromising way. They just go out and do it. And what do you find most inspiring about this creator?
Well, I love seeing people's original stuff. I think most people discount like that stuff. Like, people want covers, people want even fan art. People want fan art, they don't want to see your original whatever. But I love that. Being an artist, I love that. And I love just seeing someone be vulnerable and take the plunge and put their very first music video or whatever on their YouTube channel. And keeping your expectations where they should be, it probably is gonna flop. It probably is gonna get no views. And to see that, his first music video wasn't very good in terms of production, like music video production, because he has no money or nothing, and it kind of did flop compared to like a lot of his more recent stuff. But then you see like the progression of putting a little bit more money into it, getting a better camera, getting someone to help direct him, and getting another person to be in the music video with him, and then really, like, every single time he does it, he gets a little bit more traction, a little bit more attention, just slightly more, until you finally get that one viral hit, and then like it just explodes or whatever. And so for me, it's knowing that I think makes a lot of other people insecure, because people mostly just look at the viral hit and go like, that could never be me, or like, I'm so jealous or whatever. But I see that as like, no, this person, like, it takes a lot of guts to go and put your whatever, your music video, your art from your heart, something that was probably going to fail. Like, nothing hurts more than knowing you tried so hard on something, knowing that it's gonna fail, and being daring enough to put it out there anyways, knowing that, like, well, we all have to start somewhere, but you do it anyway. And you do it anyways, and knowing that that's what these people do, and they keep going until they finally get some level of success. That is what's inspiring to me, because most people do not have the guts to do that. No. Most people do not have the guts to fail, and like that that is why I pity a lot of the people that we used to work with, who all they want to do is wait for the day I fail, and all I want to do is get to the day I fail so I can try again and like do better. So I'm just like, I don't know. You guys suck. I don't know. Compared to this no Fun Haus guy, like, man, he's doing it.
You're not doing it. What are you doing? Do it. Go do it. All right. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Head over to honeyandabsent.com to help support this channel by buying some merch. Make sure to like, subscribe, jingle all our buttons, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.